president of Argentina, he actually recently converted to Judaism and incredibly pro-Israel, and just recently. And it's really starting to encompass all of South America. He recently, back in August, an article came out stating he's pushing a new initiative in South America known as the Isaac Accords to complement the Abraham Accords that Donald Trump had started in the Middle East. Javier Milei is starting to push the Isaac Accords to basically get more countries on board and make Zionist strongholds all across Latin America. So this is an Associated Press article that was posted back in August. Argentina president is helping launch a $1 million initiative to improve diplomatic relationships between Israel and several Latin American countries at a time when Israel is facing intense international criticism over its operations in Gaza. The Isaac Accords, funded by money from the prize that Milei received in Jerusalem, will increase ties between Israel, Uruguay, Panama, and Costa Rica, among many others. So here's the thing. I want to show you guys just how pro-Israel this dude is. I mean, time after time after time, so many interviews where he's speaking in support of Israel. There's also actually, that's what I was looking for, videos of him at the Western Wall. I know all world leaders are, kissing that wall and going against that wall. The incline that this dude has on the wall, though, I mean, you really have to be dedicated to really just shove your face into it the way that this guy does. So, I mean, props to him for really just going for it. But that's basically what's going on in Latin America. And what's so interesting is I started kind of going through like all of the different ties between different countries, and let me go ahead and just share them with you guys so you really understand some of the things going on. Let me go ahead and share this screen here. So Israel faces diplomatic divide in Latin America. This was an article posted in the Jewish News Syndicate. When it comes to Israel's relations with Latin American countries, it mostly depends on who's in power. And actually, before I finish showing you guys that, you might remember not too long ago, literally just a few weeks back, Marco Rubio met with Israel's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Gideon Sa'ar, and they discussed many things, one of them being actually Israel's relationship with Latin America. So it's so interesting that they're coming over, they're talking about Israel's relationship with Latin America just a couple of weeks ago, coming and meeting with Marco Rubio. And all of a sudden now, we see this takeover of Venezuela, which of course was great for Israel. Actually, Gideon Sa'ar, who's really the one spearheading Israel's relationship with Latin America from Israel, really the one who's really spearheading this initiative of turning Latin America into Zionist strongholds. What's so interesting is there was an article headline recently regarding how happy he is to hear about the fact that Nicolas Maduro was overthrown. Let me see if I can pull up that article headline. He was absolutely in support of it. Israel commends the United States operation led by President Trump, which acted as the leader of the free world. As this historic moment, Israel stands alongside the freedom-loving Venezuelan people who have suffered enough. Israel welcomes the removal of the dictator. The people of Venezuela deserve better. Of course, Israel is drooling over this moment because of the fact now they'll be able to plop in another Zionist leader, especially Maria Corina Machado. So they're doing it really one country at a time. Now, what's so interesting is I started going through to see the relationships that Israel already has with some of the Latin American countries. There's already a trade agreement, again, between Israel, Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay. There's a free trade agreement that they have between those countries. Not only that, of course, back in just earlier this year, actually, or earlier last year, December 11th of 2025, so just a few weeks ago, it's being reported that Costa Rica and Israel signed a free trade agreement. That was signed just on December 8th after more than 2.5 years of negotiations. All right, so that's already going on between Costa Rica and Israel. There's a bit more. This was posted back in 2024, bilateral relationships between Israel and Guatemala. It goes on, and there's another tab here. Let's see, Israel and Costa Rica to sign free trade agreement. This is posted on the Government of Israel website. Of course, we know that even this past summer, Argentina went ahead and stated that they'll be moving their embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. who also stated they're going to be moving their embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem? Maria Corina Machado, she stated once she's installed, or she becomes leader of Venezuela, president of Venezuela, one of the first things that she's going to do is she's going to go ahead and move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. It's so odd that they make that one of the first things they do. You'll see when when a world leader really wants to show their allegiance to Israel, move the embassy immediately, and it's like they all of a sudden become, incredibly powerful in their countries. It seems like supporting Israel is the key to becoming a powerful leader in whatever country in the world. It seems like that's kind of the door you have to pass. So let's see what else. Those are really the main articles I wanted to show for you there. And then again, when it comes to Israel faces diplomatic divide in Latin America, so the article goes on and it talks about the fact that Colombia's cancellation of its free trade agreement with Israel and the expulsion of the remaining Israeli diplomats have become the latest sign of broader diplomatic shift in sweeping Latin America. Now, what's so interesting, actually referring to Colombia, is what have we recently seen as well? Well, Colombia's president, Gustavo Petro, is having a fallout with President Trump. They've always had a pretty hostile relationship, actually, between the two. Gustavo Petro went at the United Nations and actually stated and told American military men that they should not stand in support of genocide. Donald Trump took that as him telling American military to go against their president, caused an immediate fallout. Gustavo Petro has also went out publicly at the United Nations and stated that the people of Israel are not God's chosen people. Actually, the people of the world are. So that already pissed off the Israelis. There's a huge hostility between Colombia and Israel. He's called out repeatedly what's happening in Palestine as a genocide. So you'll see all of these sort of things. And then what's so interesting is that immediately after Maduro is taken out, Donald Trump goes after Colombia and Gustavo Petro and says that he's going to be next. He better watch his ass. He's been incredibly hostile because of his statements to President Trump. And just imagine that. Whether or not that actually happens, who's to say? I feel like Donald Trump is a wild card. So who knows whether or not that happens. But just imagine how quickly the United States is going and basically building the Israeli empire, the beginning of the Israel's empire, turning all of Latin America into Zionist strongholds. And the one thing that Israel has that no other country in the world has is the bastardization of religion that Israel uses. And it does so in a way that it warps Christianity, and it warps Christianity in such a way that it uses it as an excuse to further its foreign policy agenda. So before Israel really wants to, the way Israel goes about making these Zionist strongholds in Latin America is it's going to go ahead and, of course, pay for pastors to come to Israel. They don't just do this in the United States. They do this in every country. They immediately bring Christians to Israel. They talk about how Israel is the land of the Jews and the land of, the ancient Israelites, and they descend from them. And they'll do this whole propaganda thing. And then they'll tell them, go back to your churches and push Zionism and push Christian Zionism. And after these pastors have been given this free trip to Israel and they're given everything that they want, and their church starts getting money and they start fundraising their churches, all of a sudden now you have them start building these Zionist strongholds in all of Latin America, just like they did in the United States. And then it becomes a lot easier to push pro-Israel policy in these countries. No other country in the world can do this. No other country can warp religion to justify and to try to get people of citizens all across the world to be on board with it. Which is why I say truly it's a bastardization of religion. I feel like they're using religion and they're warping it for something that's not actually even written to advance their goals. And unfortunately, so much of the world is actually brainwashed by this, and it works. And it works, which is why I think Israel is a specific sort of threat to the world, unlike anything else, because it's the only country, it's the only project in the Middle East, in the world that is able to use this to its advantage. And that's how it's so parasitic in that way, because it just goes in and it infiltrates their religion. It goes about changing the country, changing the dynamics, and that's how it starts to build these Zionist strongholds that we're seeing. So it's happening in Latin America. And then, of course, what after Latin America? Well, the global south in general is Israel's main initiative. It basically just wants every single damn leader in the world to go to Israel, kiss the Western Wall, The steeper the incline, the better against that wall, apparently, just like Javier Milei. And basically just have the whole world turn and pretend that Palestine never existed and that Palestine, it just completely erased the idea of a Palestinian state, of the state of Palestine. That's kind of been Israel's goal. After Iran, if there's regime change in Iran and Israel gets its way, then Israel now can fully focus on Latin America. That's going to be Israel's number one priority, aside from obviously expanding in the Middle East and full-fledged Israel project going. So I think if the regime change happens in Iran, then Latin America and expansion of the Israeli empire is exactly what we're going to begin to see. Zionist strongholds popping up all across. Latin America is going to be a huge focus for Israel. And they're going to do this sort of thing where it's going to use American imperialism to take out leaders, not only that are hostile to American interests, but take out leaders specifically because of the fact that the Israelis want them taken out. Specifically because of the fact that Israel wants to make sure that by the end of Donald Trump's administration, every single damn Latin American leader in there is as Zionist as you can get. So there's a current Zionist takeover of Latin America that the Israelis are up to that's not getting enough attention. And it's happening rather quickly. So we'll see how things unfold moving forward. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And otherwise, if you want to support my channel, I'd appreciate it if you click the subscribe button and give it a thumbs up as well. It helps me reach more people like you. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.